This is Deborah Atkinson, and you're listening to the Voice for Fitness Professionals podcast, where I share programming, marketing, and promotion strategies that are easy, enjoyable, even fun, so you can create a business and a life you love. And this show has a very special guest. Dr. Kevin Steele is actively engaged in the health and fitness industry. He began his career with a private personal training business for celebrities and athletes, while a faculty member in physical education, sports medicine, and coaching at Pepperdine University. During this period, he also worked with a local physician specializing in preventative executive health care programs for corporations throughout the United States. Dr. Steele was then recruited by Health and Tennis Corporation of America to be Director of Education, Research, and Member Services, where he managed the fitness department and launched the first national platform for personal training. Following Health and Tennis Corporation, he joined the senior management team of 24 Hour Fitness, initially as the VP of Health Services, Corporate Sales, where he managed the fitness department, the corporate wellness department, integrated healthcare into the clubs, and developed 24 Hour Fitness University. Later, he became VP of Sports Marketing there. Dr. Steele also served as the VP of Education and Program for Mad Dog Athletics. He was responsible for all education initiatives for Mad Dog's 6 brands, plus managing a team of international master instructors for every brand. Prior to Mad Dog Athletics, Dr. Steele was VP of Research and Business Development for Lifetime Fitness. Dr. Steele has created fitness education platforms, personal training programs, established relationships with numerous healthcare providers, established corporate sales programs, created corporate universities, participated in government relations, public policy initiatives for the fitness industry, coordinated numerous sponsorships with professional sports teams and the U.S. Olympic Committee, just to name a few. Can you tell Dr. Steele has been around the block? Currently, Dr. Steele is president of PTA Global and PT on the Net, and the reason why I really have him here today, providing a high-quality online education for the health and fitness industry worldwide. Dr. Steele, thanks so much for taking a break from that busy life and joining me here.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Deborah.
You know, I have loved PT on the Net for a long time, used it personally. I used it and promoted it with a group in a training facility that I ran and found it to be crucial. And I really want to make sure that every listener who's here understands what PT on the Net is, what it holds for them, and the merge of PTA Global and PT on the Net. I'm getting my alphabet soup mixed up here a little bit. But I want to, let everybody know what it is, what the distinguishing features are, and why the two of you merge. So what would be your best synopsis to really, say, okay, here's why you'd want to come visit and why we're different?
Well, first of all, thank you for highlighting who we are and allowing me this opportunity to give a little insight as to what we do. I'll start with PT on the Net. PT on the Net is really created as a membership site, a community of fitness professionals. And the idea is to provide a wonderful ongoing resource for personal trainers, group exercise instructors, wellness coaches, strength and conditioning coaches, coaches in general, sports coaches, and the ancillary healthcare providers that work with people that are active, want to be active, have been active, are no longer active but want to get back into it, people that suffer from some chronic disease states or have had some orthopedic impairments. So PT on the Net, really, we have the largest online exercise library for people to design and develop programs that support the goals and objectives of the clients or patients that they work with. And then we also have a library of over 8,000 articles on pretty much anything you can imagine with lifestyle-related issues, corrective exercise, injury prevention, etc. So it's a wonderful tool, and it's constantly being added to. We have a great kind of stable of authors that send us new updated materials and articles in their respective expertise and specialty areas. So again, the objective there is for us to provide all of the folks out there that work with people the tools and resources and references necessary for them to stay out in front and on top of their game when they're working with their clients and patients. And PTA Global, on the other side, is pure educational. PTA stands for Personal Training Academy Global, just as it says. I mean, both companies are international. We are in multiple countries around the world. And we have our cornerstone for PTA Global is a personal training certification that is NCCA accredited. And probably the biggest points of differentiation between us and everybody else out there, most all of the certification organizations do a great job delivering the foundational sciences. The biomechanics of motion and human movement, the physiology, at least last time I checked, the anatomy hasn't changed. So that's pretty standard stuff. But where PTA Global is really different is we really focus on behavior change because we believe fundamentally that a person, it's really about giving them the education, the client, the end user, the education necessary and the motivation and the structure to affect their decision to make the appropriate changes in their behavior to have a positive impact on their lifestyle. And so to do that, the fitness professional or the coach needs to have the appropriate skill set and knowledge base to be able to provide the guidance and the motivation necessary to work with those folks. And it's about long-term sustainable change in a person's lifestyle. Ultimately, sure, we can have some short-term, immediate, quick fixes, if you will, and somebody can lose 5 or 10 pounds, but we all know that the yo-yo syndrome, if you will, from a weight loss perspective, is one of the most challenging and the most difficult from a physiological and psychological perspective for people to deal with. And to get around and out in front of all that, that's where you really get into behavior change. And that's one of the things that PTA Global we put a lot of effort and energy into that aspect of education. And then the other is some of the softer skills necessary to be a successful professional. And what does that mean? That means that you essentially have to understand how to create and be your own brand, whether you work in a facility, a large chain, whether you work in a regional chain, whether you work in a solo studio, or you're a freelance, or you're a coach on a team. At the end of the day, you are a brand and you represent yourself. So you have to understand how to market yourself, how to sell your services or your knowledge, and how to create a long-term sustainable relationship with the folks that you're working with. And so we provide the knowledge, insight, tools, and expertise to help you do that if you're a professional or you're just getting started in the business. And our PTA Global curriculum is also offered through some universities for students in kinesiology or exercise science that are looking to get into the fitness industry or one of the ancillary peripheral industries as a career. So, we're helping to get those folks, the younger generation, the next generation of professionals, some practical as well as some academic knowledge to get out into the workforce and help change lives.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that. And I hate that both. So no offense to you, but, saying the softer skills, boy, I think that for a lot of individuals who do come out, with that passion, right, about fitness and even about helping others, sometimes those business skills are the hardest of skills to learn. So I so appreciate that you're doing that. Branding, marketing, selling, that important stuff that, so often, I'm sure you've run across this in that, long longevity of career that you've had, that people often get to a point where they say, I know how to change lives. I just don't know how to make a living changing lives.
Yes, that's the unfortunate part of it. People go to school. In a lot of cases, they come out with a 4-year degree in exercise science or kinesiology or something along those lines, and they learn all the wonderful kind of academic aspects of how to work with and help people and change people's lives. And that's why they get into the career of personal training, for example. But what they don't know and what they don't realize in most cases is that there's a whole other kind of set of requirements, because if you work in a large club environment or you work for a large chain, then there are expectations and requirements actually that you have to do a certain amount of selling. And also you have to make sure that you do a certain amount of renewing your book of business. And so that comes as a surprise and a shock. And that's not why people get into that side of the business. I mean, people that are comfortable with sales usually get into the sales side of the business. And so that's the kind of the unfortunate disconnect, and it's still alive and well. Deborah, I've worked with thousands and thousands of personal trainers and fitness professionals on all levels throughout the years. And, that's still, one of the first and most common things. Well, I didn't get into this business to sell. I got into to help people and change people's lives. But what trainers and others need to really kind of think about is that, if you do a thorough explanation of what it is you do and how you can help people, then they're going to say, how soon can I get started? And where do I sign up? I've never really felt like I've sold anything in my life, but when I get done with a conversation with somebody, they're pretty anxious and eager to get going, because it's all about, presenting the value of what you do as for a living and how you can help them change their lives. And you really have to be one of the most critical components of being successful as a fitness professional is the art of listening, the skill of listening. And unfortunately, too many people like to talk more than they do listen. But if you listen to a person and really hear what they have to say and what their current challenges and concerns are and how they want to change their life, what their vision for themselves, a month, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now is or are, then you can really start to develop a nice plan and help those people significantly do that.
Love that. Yeah, it's so great. And I think a trainer probably can't hear that often enough, that there are so many people out there seeking their services. And, when you present them with, here's how I can help, here's how you'll benefit, it's such a win-win. And that's never more true. And I'm sure you'll agree with this, than with our aging population. So the baby boomers we heard so much about before they got to be aging, and now they've turned the corner and they are aging, and they are not wanting to age in a way that populations or generations before them. And I have to say us, I'm a barely boomer myself, right at the tail end of the line. We don't want to accept what we've seen as models before. So we're actively seeking support. So I am really curious, given PT on the Net is such a deep library of content, and you're serving trainers and health professionals, serving these older adults as well. What have you seen, Kevin, over the years, as far as, the last 3 years, the last 5, or the last 10, in terms of the demand for content related to working with those individuals who are, say over 50, what I call in my world flipping 50?
Okay, well, that's a great question. And first of all, the baby boom generation is the first generation in the U.S. history that really said, we're going to do things differently. We're not going to look at this aging thing the way our parents and grandparents did. We're going to participate. We're going to flip it on its head, so to speak. We're not going to be passive. So, and also a lot of things can kind of lined up to make that happen, especially for women with Title IX and the ability to participate in organized sports and fitness and all of that. So the baby boomers as a whole have been very, very aggressive in continuing to participate in activities and sports that they started in elementary, junior high, high school, and maybe even college, and continued that lifestyle all the way through to where they are now. And with that, I mean, that's obviously great, but with that comes some challenges of itself, because with activity can come injuries and a whole nother set of issues, and proper training protocols and recovery and all of those things. So they still, even though they know how important exercise is and or sport competition, they still need goals and guidance and motivation, because even the most dedicated people still need some motivation on occasion, or they need some new methodology for exercise, because the other side of that is that they've been doing something that they love for so long that they've developed overuse injuries that may now prevent them from doing something such as running. Maybe they started running back in high school and they ran several marathons, and they've developed knee issues, ankle issues, hip issues. So the fitness professional needs to be cognizant and aware of that and how to work with and around that. And one of the courses that we're going to be offering shortly is going to be exercise and joint replacement. Because again, we talk about the baby boomers, and there's a lot of knee replacements and hip replacements. So, and then we go over to the other side for the folks that haven't been active. Then there's a lot of pre-disease and a lot of disease states. We all know what the stats are on obesity in this country. 69% of the U.S. adult population is either overweight or obese. 33% are considered clinically obese at this point. So, there's some people even say that number's higher. So there's all of that going on, and the chronic disease states, most of them are lifestyle related, right? So what do you do as a fitness professional? You should look at that as a huge opportunity for you to get in and start working with these people, and again, help them change their lives for the better. But you have to do that with the appropriate tools, knowledge, and expertise available to you, because there are certain special concerns and considerations that you need to understand prior to getting in and designing a program, because there is, depending on what that particular chronic disease state is, there is some liability for potential harm of the individual. So, you need to understand the pathology of the disease, the etiology of the disease, and what some of those special concerns and considerations are. And so we, in conjunction with the Medical Fitness Network, are developing a portfolio of these specialty courses. So exercise in cancer, exercise in diabetes, exercise in MS, exercise in osteoporosis, joint replacement, balance and fall prevention. These are just some of the courses that you'll see being introduced throughout the rest of this year for the fitness professional or ancillary healthcare provider that is interested in really working with, the baby boomers and the folks that have unfortunately contracted some of these pre-disease or disease states. So we're very excited to be able to help folks really expand their knowledge base and hopefully build a newer book of business in that regard.
That's phenomenal and so great. The need is so great, and I love that you're brought up the Medical Fitness Network. And so, of course, we're talking about founder Lisa Dougherty, and you're beyond that. I think you humbled yourself a little bit there. So you're actually going above and beyond and doing something a little bit more with Lisa. So not only are you launching these courses, but you've also included a donation to her foundation and a 1-year membership to the MedFit Network registry for course participants. Do I have that correct?
Yes, you do. Yeah, Lisa and I have known each other for quite a long time, and I really am happy to see the Medical Fitness Network taking off, and some of the regional conferences this year are very exciting. She's set up some really cool venues and some great speakers, and so we have kind of jumped on board to help support her. We're their educational partner and platform. And a lot of that, again, has to do with adding these specialty courses because the Medical Fitness Network is all about helping establish a registry, if you will, of fitness professionals that have the credentials and the qualifications to work in these areas, to work with the American Heart Association, Diabetes Association, Alzheimer's Association, all of these big, that we see in the country and around the world, actually, organizations that are their whole purpose is to help people afflicted with these different types of diseases. And we feel like, in conjunction with Lisa and the Medical Fitness Network, that there's a lot of work to be done out there, and there's a lot of good and a lot of help that can be provided as long as the fitness professional or whoever the wellness coach is that's working with them have the proper credentials and expertise. And also, it's a matter of being comfortable and confident with your knowledge base, because the last thing you want to do is enter into a circumstance where you're being asked to advise and design and develop things for people, and you really don't have the depth and scope of knowledge or experience or expertise to really go down that path. And so we're just simply trying to help provide those tools and that knowledge base necessary.
Yeah, and I love that. It's a win-win. And I want to emphasize for listeners, so the MedFit Network registry is there for both you and for the consumer. So the important thing about this is Lisa is beginning this because people are looking, they're seeking. And as a wellness and fitness speaker, who speaks for corporations and for women's associations, most of all, that is the number one question that I will get after a speech is, where do I find a trainer to work with who can do that for
Absolutely.
me? And they don't know where to turn. So it's making you findable. It's providing them a place to come where they have a trusted resource and everybody there has been screened. And, it's a great place for you to be, because if you're struggling at all, there are people all over looking for you. They are seeking support. So, yeah, it's such a great concept. And the unique thing, Kevin and Lisa, the two of you together are teaming up to do this amazing piece that's been missing. And Kevin, I think you can talk probably a little bit more about this, but it's making sure you've not just had continuing education credits, but that you've had the right ones to work with the right people, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of information out there now, and it's just a matter of kind of ferreting through and finding what's most appropriate for the segments of the populations that you want to work with directly. And the credibility of the organization that is providing the education is also critical in the decision process, because it used to be that there was very little credible quality information out there, but now it's the same for the consumer as well as the fitness professional, is that there's so much out there, they're inundated with it, they're confused and conflicted by it, and they don't really know which one to go to and which one to select. So, that's where you really have to kind of understand the organization and, do a deep dive and research, who's behind them and what their objectives are. And do you align with them philosophically and strategically in what their mission is with yours? And are they going to support you and really help you help people? And that's at the end of the day what it boils down to. And, again, that's why we're here, because, I've spent my entire career trying to help educate and motivate people on the benefits of a healthy lifestyle. And that goes from, the professional down to the consumer. And so we're excited to introduce these new specialty courses and hope that the industry receives them well and understands and sees the value and the benefits and the opportunities that they present by participating in these courses, as well as the rest of the education. I mean, there's just a plethora of education on both of our sites, the PT on the Net side and the PTA Global side. So we have more than enough to both start and or continue for a long time anyone's education.
Yes, and you bridge the gap between accessibility or, close it instead of needing to travel. If you felt like, you're living in a rural area or, you're tied down and can't get away. I mean, you've eliminated that problem right away.
Absolutely.
So accessible.
It's about convenience, accessibility, credibility, and reliability. Those are really what we're about.
Powerful list. Okay, so how can listeners best access PT on the Net, and or if there's a business owner listening who thinks, maybe this is something I need to invest in for my staff to motivate them and or to monitor, what they're doing for CECs? That's
a great point, Deborah. We have what we call a performance suite because we have two communities really we help. We help the individual, and we also work with 3,000 plus clubs or facilities, and through our performance suite. And there's a club owner or a chain of clubs would simply contact us and say, hey, I'm interested in your performance suite. And for a monthly membership fee, if you will, the club owner can provide essentially PT on the Net for free to all of his employees. And then they get a significant discount on all of our personal training certification and all of our advanced specialty courses. So we have a myriad of courses available within the performance suite. We have sales training, we have customer service, we have front desk. Basically, if you look at a club, all of the club operations that take place, we have education for. So, we have Group X certification. We have, like I said, front desk. We have, we even have CPR stuff. So we have some really applicable, practical education for the club owner operator to provide to their staff via our performance suite. And then we have the individual, personal training on the Net stuff, as I mentioned earlier, one of the most extensive, if not the most extensive online exercise program, library program design, and then articles of continuing education there. So it's very, very easy to get engaged through PT on the Net or PTA Global.
Thanks for that synopsis. And I found it to be so true, and it changed the conversation. There was a lot of stimulation among our staff members, about what they were reading because the accessibility was right there. And if one trainer was reading it, there was a little healthy competition and another wanted to read it. And so it was great, thriving for everybody.
Competition is always good.
Right. What about the flip side? Let's say we've got listeners who are thinking, I love it. I do love it. I recognize the names that I see, the authors who are writing for PT on the Net, and I aspire to write or contribute. Are you welcoming additional writers and authors, and how could somebody get started?
Absolutely. We're constantly looking for people that have the experience and the expertise and even some new ideas that doesn't even have to fit within the current mix of articles or subject matter. I mean, obviously it needs to be relevant to our community, but we're constantly looking for new authors and writers and topics. So, because it's all about providing fresh content, or even, you take an existing topic that has a different perspective to it, so it's absolutely welcoming to have new folks. And I would just say that our director of content for PT on the Net is a gentleman named Scott Lucette. Scott's been around the industry quite a long time, and he and I work very closely together. So you can contact either Scott or myself, and we definitely will we'll ask you, a series of questions as far as your background, your expertise, your education. Have you written before? Probably ask for a sample of your writing and a few basic criteria. But suffice to say that if somebody's good enough and they really want to do it, then we would love to.
Fantastic. Do you want to share? Is it best to go to PT on the net? Is it .com or .org or?
It's ptonthenet.com. Sure.
And reach out there through contact.
And the same with PTA Global, ptaglobal.com.
Okay, great. Great. Listeners, if you're working out, you're running, you're lifting, you're commuting, we've got you covered. I will have all of that in the show notes. And Kevin, now comes the toughest question of the day. Are you ready?
Yeah.
You're sitting down? We should never ask that, right, as fitness professionals, but I'm asking. So is there a question that I should have asked you that I missed?
Well, I think you're pretty comprehensive, and I appreciate all the answers or all the questions because we did cover a lot of different topics. And so the main thing is that I wanted to get across is that, again, that we're here to help build a fitness professional's business and continue their opportunity to expand their access and their reach. And we have the tools to help them do that. That's why we exist. So, and we have some very cool new specialty courses that we're introducing, and we hope that they're going to, receive them well and be excited about them so that they can expand their horizons, so to speak, their intellectual horizons.
Fantastic. Thanks for the summary. And Kevin, thank you so much for your time. Quite obvious from your bio that you are a busy man. Listeners, I am going to circle back, link to some of the specialty courses and the content that PTA Global, PT on the Net, and MedFit Network are collaborating on. And I will also share some information about the upcoming medical fitness tour that's coming in this fall, September, that you'll want to pay attention to. And if you have a question and you're listening, leave it below the show link at fitnessmarketingmastery.com/podcast. And I'd so appreciate it if you leave us a rating in iTunes. Check out the blog and other podcast episodes at fitnessmarketingmastery.com.